Okay, so today I'm going to be making a cake called Reine de Saba. It's a very simplistic cake. It's gluten-free. It's a nice gluten-free option for anybody looking for a gluten-free dessert. And it's very simple. It's very tasty. It's very delicious. This was first introduced to me by another chef friend of mine, and I've been making it ever since, and it's come with rave reviews. So the first step is actually going to be making a simple meringue. And for those who don't know, meringue is just whipped egg whites. I use 3 egg whites in this. I already separated the yolks and be using that later on in the cake. So set those aside. You just add a pinch of salt to the egg whites to help them relax and break up. And then once you start whipping the eggs and they get foamy, you're just going to add about a tablespoon of sugar. So you know your egg whites will be ready when they reach like a nice thick consistency, kind of like a shaving cream. So when these are whipped, you'll see that they stand up nice and high like that. They're not going to fall over. But we're going to add these egg whites to a separate bowl for now, because we need to use the mixer for the next step. Okay, so this next step is going to involve starting the cake. So we have butter, sugar, fine ground almond flour, the 3 egg yolks that are left over from our egg whites. We have chocolate. We have also 2 tablespoons of fresh brewed tea and some almond extract. There's also additional ingredients which also include like using maybe a tablespoon or 2 of alcohol, which is kind of like a gran or amaretto. It just adds like a nice flavor, but the almond extract is enough flavor for me. So. But I tend to use dark chocolate in the cake. It's very good. I'm a big fan of dark chocolate, but you can actually use any chocolate that you like. Just keep in mind that there's already about a ½ cup of sugar in the cake, so you don't want any chocolate that's too sweet. So like a milk chocolate is probably not good. So you could probably use like a semi-sweet or like a dark chocolate, maybe around 72%, if you prefer. But this is actually 100% dark chocolate, and the cake comes out great. So we'll begin by whipping the butter and the sugar together. So once your butter and your sugar is nice and creamy, I'm just going to add the egg yolks. And then you're going to mix that nice and well until they're incorporated. So just want to stop maybe a couple times throughout and make sure you scrape those sides of the bowls down. That way you get everything is incorporated well. And our mixture will be ready when the mixture is nice yellow color. So the next step is actually going to add our chocolate. This is melted chocolate. You could either temper it on the stove, melt it on the stove on a double boiler, or you can just do it in like 30 to 15-second intervals in the microwave. That's your choice, whichever you feel more comfortable with. At this point, we're also going to add the freshly brewed coffee. You can use espresso. I've also at times used like instant coffee diluted in a couple tablespoons of hot water. That way it gives a more intense coffee flavor, and that actually just helps deepen the chocolate flavor of the cake. So we're going to mix that until it's all incorporated. So after adding the coffee and the almond extract, just gonna add the almond flour. And again, you're gonna mix that until it's incorporated. Again, you wanna start out slow because it'll kick that almond flour out of the mixer if you're not careful. Okay, so once that's incorporated, you're just going to take the meringue that you made. You're actually only going to take about a third of the meringue. And you're going to put that into the mixer. And this just helps lighten up the batter just a little bit. You want to mix that low because otherwise you're going to deflate the meringue either way, but just keep it on low. That way it just keeps the cake a little bit softer consistency. You just kind of want to mix it until most of the white of the meringue disappears. And again, you want to scrape down the sides to make sure everything gets incorporated well. Okay, so after that, the next step is going to be done by hand. So just take it off the mixer. Okay, so now we're going to be adding the rest of the meringue to our batter. And you want to do this stage nice and easy because you don't want to deflate the egg whites. The egg whites is what's going to give body to our cake. So you just want to take the batter from underneath and turn it up on top of the egg whites. Just nice and easy that way. You'll feel the batter becoming nice and light. Make sure you're doing it by hand because you do it on the machine. It's definitely going to deflate those egg whites and you'll have a more dense cake. I mean, it will still come out, it will still taste good. So don't feel bad if you break it down, but the cake will be much more decadent and light if you do it by hand. So you just kind of do it until all those egg whites, the whites disappear. So just a nice dark or light mixture of a cake batter. And then from there, we're just going to put it in our cake pan. So the recipe calls for like a 9-inch cake pan, and you already greased that ahead of time. So you're just going to pour that nice and light into the pan. So once that batter's in the pan, just lightly spread it around to the edges. Just make sure it's nice and even. So we're just going to put this in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, but you still want to keep an eye on it because it's like a nice light airy cake, so it's possible, depending on your oven, that the cooking times might take more or less time. So I'm just going to put that in the middle rack of the oven and I'll see you in about a half hour. So the cake is actually in the oven for about 20 minutes and it's very good. It's nice and firm in the middle. We're just going to let that cool for about 10 minutes and then we're going to take it out of the tray and then we're just going to let it cool completely before we put the chocolate glaze on the cake. So the cake is cooled and I'm making my chocolate ganache or my chocolate glaze, which is just the dark chocolate and some butter. And I'm doing this on a double boiler just to make it a nicer consistency. Sometimes when you make it in the microwave, it doesn't turn out as good. And I used the same dark chocolate that I used for the cake, but I actually added a little bit of sugar just to like sweeten it a little bit so it's not like overly dark. So my chocolate's almost melted. Just want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Double boiler just basically consists of putting it on top of like a small pan with just a little bit of water, and you typically just use a glass bowl, and you put it on a gentle heat. You don't want it boiling because it's not really necessary. You just want a nice even heat. So my chocolate's melted. I'm gonna let it sit for just a little bit so it's not overly hot, and I'm gonna add it to my cake. So see you in a bit. All right, so I have my melted chocolate, my chocolate ganache, and just for decoration on the cake is some shaved almonds. So we'll be putting those on as well. So first you just want to pour the glaze over top of the cake. Generally just do it right in the middle. And when it's warm, it'll kind of like set into the cake a little bit, which will make your cake even a little bit richer. You can just like let that set on top of the cake for just a little bit so it soaks in like it does. Just kind of want to spread that around close to the edge. And you still kind of like want it to set up, but it's going to cool a little bit by its has more surface area here on the top of the cake. So that's another good reason to like let it set for just a little bit longer, because it is kind of thin like when it's really warm. And when you feel it setting up, you can just start gently letting it go over to the side, letting it run over the side. I put a piece of paper towel down just because my pan isn't really big enough to handle all the frosting. So then the next step is this is actually the more painstaking process, is just putting the almonds on the side of the cake. And you can make it as decorative as you want. Also, if you have like some extra almond flour, you can maybe do a nice dusting on the cake instead of this, but this is kind of like really how it's been traditionally served. So that's the Reine de Saba, that's the Queen of Sheba cake. It's fairly easy, it's fairly simple, and it's delicious. Everybody that I know that has tried it has enjoyed it very much. So,
yeah, exactly. 18 is too old. Tom, I mixed it up. I messed it up.
Yeah. You're very slow.
Thomas,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I know you.
She really wants to know the drama queen. Stop saying that.
Guys, stop eating and then take a video and then say like look at the camera. Or I just talk together and say it's good.
No, you said there's no voice. It's only
No, there's no voice, we're just eating.
did you want to be on camera or no, Becky?
I don't want to be on camera. Yummy. It's super good. Yeah, it's last time.
It's good.
Yum, yum, yum.